Hello, this is Teacher Todd Booth, and I'll be covering Chapter 7 from the book titled Network Security Essentials by the author William Stallings. This chapter begins with a general overview of wireless security issues. We then focus on the relatively new area of mobile device security, examining threats and countermeasures for mobile devices used in the enterprise. Then we look at the IEEE 802.11i standard for wireless LAN security. This standard is part of the IEEE 802.11, also referred to as Wi-Fi. We begin the discussion with an overview of IEEE 802.11, and then we look into some detail at IEEE 802.11i. Wireless networks and the wireless devices that use them introduced a host of security problems over and above those found in wired networks. Some of the key factors contributing to the higher security risk of wireless networks compared to wired networks include the following. Channel. Wireless networking typically involves broadcast communications, which is far more susceptible to eavesdropping and jamming than wired networks. Wireless networks are also more vulnerable to active attacks that exploit vulnerabilities in communications protocols. Mobility. Wireless devices are, in principle and usually in practice, far more portable and mobile than wired devices. This mobility results in a number of risks described subsequently. Resources. Some wireless devices, such as smartphones and tablets, have sophisticated operating systems, but limited memory and processing resources with which to counter threats, including denial of service and malware. Accessibility. Some wireless devices, such as sensors and robots, may be left unattended in remote and/or hostile locations. This greatly increases the vulnerability to physical attacks. In simple terms, the wireless environment consists of three components that provide point of attack. The wireless client can be a cell phone, a Wi-Fi enabled laptop or tablet, a wireless sensor, a Bluetooth device, and so on. The wireless access point provides a connection to the network or service. Examples of access points are cell towers, Wi-Fi hotspots, and wireless access points to wired local or wide area networks. The transmission medium, which carries the radio waves for data transfer, is also a source of vulnerability. We now list the following security threats to wireless networks. Accidental association. Company wireless LANs or wireless access points to wired LANs in close proximity, e.g. in the same or neighboring buildings, may create overlapping transmission ranges. A user intending to connect to one LAN may unintentionally lock onto a wireless access point from a neighboring network. Although the security breach is accidental, it nevertheless exposes resources of one LAN to the accidental user. Malicious association. In this situation, a wireless device is configured to appear to be a legitimate access point, enabling the operator to steal passwords from legitimate users and then penetrate a wired network through a legitimate wireless access point. Ad hoc networks. These are peer-to-peer networks between wireless computers with no access point between them. Such networks can pose a security threat due to a lack of central point of contact. Non-traditional networks. Non-traditional networks and links, such as personal network Bluetooth devices, barcode readers, handheld PDAs, pose a security risk in terms of both eavesdropping and spoofing. Identity theft, MAC spoofing. This occurs when an attacker is able to eavesdrop on network traffic and identify the MAC address of a computer with network privileges. Man-in-the-middle attack. This type of attack is described in Chapter 3 in the context of the Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol. In a broader sense, this attack involves persuading a user and an access point to believe that they are talking to each other when in fact the communication is going through an intermediate attacking device. Wireless networks are particularly vulnerable to such attacks. Denial of service, DOS. This type of attack is discussed in detail in Chapter 10. In the context of a wireless network, a DOS attack occurs when an attacker continually bombards a wireless access point or some other accessible wireless port with various protocol messages designed to consume system resources. The wireless environment lends itself to this type of attack because it is so easy for the attacker to direct multiple wireless messages at the target. Network injection. A network injection attack targets wireless access points that are exposed to non-filtered network traffic, such as routing protocol messages or network management messages. An example of such an attack is one in which the bogus reconfiguration commands are used to affect routers and switches to degrade network performance. The principal threats to wireless transmission are eavesdropping, altering or inserting messages, and disruption. To deal with eavesdropping, two types of countermeasures are appropriate. Signal hiding techniques. Organizations can take a number of measures to make it more difficult for an attacker to locate their wireless access point, including turning off service set identifier broadcasting by wireless access points, assigning cryptic names to SSIDs, reducing signal strength to the lowest level that still provides requisite coverage, and locating wireless access points in the interior of the building, away from windows and exterior walls. Greater security can be achieved by the use of directional antennas and of signal shielding techniques. Encryption. Encryption of all wireless transmission is effective against eavesdropping to the extent that the encryption keys are secured. The use of encryption and authentication protocols is the standard method of countering attempts to alter or insert transmissions. The methods discussed in Chapter 10 for dealing with DOS apply to wireless transmissions. Organizations can also reduce the risk of unintentional DOS attacks. Site surveys can detect the existence of other devices using the same frequency range to help determine where to locate wireless access points. Signal strengths can be adjusted and shielded, used in an attempt to isolate a wireless environment from competing nearby transmissions. The main threat involving wireless access points is unauthorized access to the network. The principal approach for preventing such access is the IEEE 802.1x standard for port-based network access control. The standard provides an authentication mechanism for devices wishing to attach to a LAN or wireless network. The use of 802.1x can prevent rogue access points and other unauthorized devices from becoming insecure backdoors. Section 5.3 provides an introduction to 802.1x. Securing wireless networks. The following recommendations include techniques for wireless network security. 1. Use encryption. Wireless routers are typically equipped with built-in encryption mechanisms for router-to-router traffic. 2. Use antivirus and anti-spyware software and a firewall. These facilities should be enabled on all wireless network endpoints. 3. Turn off identifier broadcasting. Wireless routers are typically configured to broadcast an identifying signal so that the device within range can learn of the router's existence. If a network is configured so that authorized devices know the identity of routers, this capability can be disabled so as to thwart attackers. 4. Change the identifier on your router from the default. Again, this measure thwarts attackers who will attempt to gain access to a wireless network using default router identifiers. 5. Change your router's preset password for administration. This is another prudent step. 6. Allow only specific computers to access your wireless network. A router can be configured to only communicate with approved MAC addresses. Of course, MAC addresses can be spoofed, so this is just one more element of a security strategy. Mobile device security. Prior to the widespread use of smartphones, the dominant paradigm for computer and network security in organizations was as follows. Corporate IT was tightly controlled. User devices were typically limited to Windows PCs. Business applications were controlled by IT and either run locally on the endpoints or on physical servers in data centers. Network security was based upon clearly defined perimeters that separated trusted internal networks from the untrusted internet. Today, there have been massive changes in each of these assumptions. An organization's networks must accommodate the following. Growing use of new devices. Organizations are experiencing significant growth in employee use of mobile devices. In many cases, employees are allowed to use a combination of endpoint devices as part of their day-to-day activities. Cloud-based applications. Applications no longer run solely on physical servers in corporate data centers. Quite the opposite. Applications can run anywhere on traditional physical servers, on mobile virtual servers, or in the cloud. Additionally, end users can now take advantage of a wide variety of cloud-based applications and IT services for personal and professional use. Facebook can be used for an employee's personal profiles or as a component of a corporate marketing campaign. Employees depend upon Skype to speak with friends abroad or legitimate business video conferencing. Dropbox and Box can be used to distribute documents between corporate and personal devices for mobility and user productivity. Given new device proliferation, application mobility, and cloud-based consumer and corporate services, the notion of a static network perimeter is all but gone. Now there are a multitude of network perimeters around devices, applications, users, and data. These perimeters also have become quite dynamic as they must adapt to various environmental conditions, such as user role, device type, server virtualization mobility, network location, and time of day. External business requirements. The enterprise must also provide guests, third-party contractors, and business partners network access during various times with various devices from a multitude of locations. The central element in all of these changes is that the mobile computing device is on the move. Mobile devices have become an essential element for organizations as part of the overall network infrastructure. Mobile devices such as smartphones, tablets, and memory sticks provide increased convenience for individuals as well as the potential for increased productivity in the workplace. Because of their widespread use and unique characteristics, security for mobile devices is a pressing and complex issue. In essence, an organization needs to implement a security policy through a combination of security features built into the mobile devices and additional security controls provided by network components that regulate the use of the mobile devices. Security threats. Mobile devices need additional specialized protection measures beyond those implemented for other client devices, such as desktop and laptop devices that are used only within the organization's facilities and on the organization's networks. SP 800-14 Guidelines for Managing and Securing Mobile Devices in the Enterprise lists 7 major security concerns for mobile devices. We examine each of these in turn. Lack of physical security controls. Mobile devices are typically under the complete control of the user, and are used and kept in a variety of locations outside the organization's control, including off-premises. Even if a device is required to remain on premises, the user may move the device within the organization between secure and non-secured locations. Thus, theft and tampering are realistic threats. The security policy for mobile devices must be based on the assumption that any mobile device may be stolen or at least accessed by a malicious party. The threat is twofold. A malicious party may attempt to recover sensitive data from the device itself, or may use the device to gain access to the organization's resources. Use of untrusted mobile devices. In addition to company-issued and company-controlled mobile devices, virtually all employees will have personal smartphones and/or tablets. The organization must assume that these devices are not trustworthy. That is, the devices may not employ encryption, and either the user or a third party may have installed a bypass to the built-in restrictions on security, operating system use, and so on. Use of untrusted networks. If a mobile device is used on premises, it can connect to organizational resources over the organization's own in-house wireless networks. However, for off-premises use, the user will typically access organizational resources via Wi-Fi or cellular access to the internet, and from the internet to the organization. Thus, traffic that includes an off-premises segment is potentially susceptible to eavesdropping or man-in-the-middle types of attacks. Thus, the security policy must be based on the assumption that the networks between the mobile device and the organization are not trustworthy. Use of applications created by unknown parties. By design, it is easy to find and install third-party applications on mobile devices. This poses the obvious risk of installing malicious software. An organization has several options for dealing with this threat, as described subsequently. Interaction with other systems. A common feature found on smartphones and tablets is the ability to automatically synchronize data, apps, contacts, photos, and so on with other computing devices and with cloud-based storage. Unless an organization has control of all the devices involved in synchronization, there is considerable risk of the organization's data being stored in an insecure location, plus the risk of introduction of malware. Use of untrusted content. Mobile devices may access and use content that other computing devices do not encounter. An example is the Quick Response Code, which is a two-dimensional barcode. QR codes are designed to be captured by a mobile device camera and used by the mobile device. The QR code translates to a URL, so that a malicious QR code could direct the mobile device to malicious websites. Use of location services. The GPS capability on mobile devices can be used to maintain a knowledge of the physical location of the device. While this feature might be useful to an organization as part of a presence service, it creates security risks. An attacker can use the location information to determine where the device and user are located, which may be of use to the attacker. Mobile device security elements. With the threats listed in the preceding discussion in mind, we outline the principal elements of a mobile device security strategy. They fall into three categories: device security, client-server traffic security, and barrier security. Device security. A number of organizations will supply mobile devices for employee use and pre-configure those devices to conform to the enterprise security policy. However, many organizations will find it convenient or even necessary to adopt a bring your own device (BYOD) policy that allows the personal mobile devices of employees to have access to corporate resources. IT managers should be able to inspect each device before allowing network access. IT will want to establish configuration guidelines for operating systems and applications. For example, rooted or jailbroken devices are not permitted on the network, and mobile devices cannot store corporate contacts on local storage. Whether a device is owned by the organization or BYOD, the organization should configure the device with security controls, including the following. Enable auto lock, which causes the device to lock if it has not been used for a given amount of time, requiring the user to re-enter a 4-digit PIN or password to reactivate the device. Enable password or PIN protection. The PIN or password is needed to unlock the device. In addition, it can be configured so that email and other data on the device are encrypted using the PIN or password and can only be retrieved with the PIN or password. Avoid using autocomplete features that remember usernames or passwords. Enable remote wipe. Ensure that SSL protection is enabled if available. Make sure that software, including operating systems and applications, is up to date. Install antivirus software as it becomes available. Either sensitive data should be prohibited from storage on the mobile device, or it should be encrypted. IT staff should also have the ability to remotely access the devices, wipe the device of all data, and then disable the device in the event of loss or theft. The organization may prohibit all installation of third-party applications, implement whitelisting to prohibit installation of unapproved applications, or implement a secure sandbox that isolates the organization's data and applications from all other data and applications on the mobile device. Any application that is on an approved list should be accompanied by a digital signature and public key certificate from an approved authority. The organization can implement and enforce restrictions on what devices can synchronize and on the use of cloud-based storage. To deal with the threat of untrusted content, security responses can include training of personnel on the risks inherent in untrusted content and disabling camera use on corporate mobile devices. To counter the threat of malicious use of location services, the security policy can dictate that such service is disabled on all mobile devices. Traffic security. Traffic security is based on the unusual mechanisms for encryption and authentication as needed. All traffic should be encrypted and travel by secure means, such as TLS or IP version 6. Virtual private networks, VPNs, can be configured so that all traffic between the mobile device and the organization's network is via a VPN. A strong authentication protocol should be used to limit the access from the device to the resources of the organization. Often, a mobile device has a single specific authenticator because it is assumed that the device has only one user. A preferable strategy is to have a 2-layer authentication mechanism, which involves authenticating the device and then authenticating the user of the device. Barrier security. The organization should have security mechanisms to protect the network from unauthorized access. The security strategy can also include firewall policies specific to mobile device traffic. Firewall policies can limit the scope of data and application access for all mobile devices. Similarly, intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems can be configured to have tighter rules for mobile device traffic. IEEE 802.11 Wireless LAN Overview. IEEE 802 is a committee that has developed standards for a wide range of local area networks, LANs. In 1990, the IEEE 802 committee formed a new working group, IEEE 802.11, with a charter to develop protocols and transmission specifications for wireless LANs, WLANs. Since that time, the demand for WLANs at different frequencies and data rates has exploded. Keeping pace with this demand, the IEEE 802.11 Working Group has issued an ever-expanding list of standards. IEEE 802.11 Terminology. This table briefly defines key terms used in the IEEE standard. Please pause the video. Wi-Fi Alliance. The first 802.11 standard to gain broad industry acceptance was 802.11b. Although 802.11b products are all based on the same standard, there is always a concern whether products from different vendors will successfully interoperate. To meet this concern, the Wireless Ethernet Compatibility Alliance, WECA, an industry consortium, was formed in 1999. This organization subsequently renamed the Wi-Fi Wireless Fidelity Alliance, created a test suite to certify interoperability for 802.11b products. The term used for certified products is Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi certification has been extended to 802.11g products. The Wi-Fi Alliance has also developed a certification process for 802.11a products called Wi-Fi 5. The Wi-Fi Alliance is concerned with a range of market areas for WLANs, including enterprise, home, and hotspots. More recently, the Wi-Fi Alliance has developed certification procedures for IEEE 802.11 security standards, referred to as Wi-Fi Protected Access. The most recent version is known as WPA2, which incorporates all of the features of the IEEE 802.11i WLAN security specification. IEEE 802.11 Protocol Stack. Before proceeding, we need to briefly preview the IEEE 802 protocol architecture. The IEEE 802.11 standards are defined within the structure of a layered set of protocols. This structure, used for all IEEE 802 standards, is illustrated in the figure. Physical layer. The lowest layer of the IEEE 802 reference model is the physical layer, which includes such functions as encoding, decoding of signals, and bit transmission reception. In addition, the physical layer includes a specification of the transmission medium. In the case of IEEE 802.11, the physical layer also defines frequency bands and antenna characteristics. Media access control. All LANs consist of collections of devices that share the network's transmission capacity. Some means of controlling access to the transmission medium is needed to provide an orderly and efficient use of that capacity. This is the function of a media access control MAC layer. The MAC layer receives data from a higher layer protocol, typically the logical link control LLC layer, in the form of a block of data known as the MAC Service Data Unit, MSDU. In general, the MAC layer performs the following functions. On transmission, assemble data into a frame known as a MAC Protocol Data Unit, MPDU, with address and error correction fields. On reception, disassemble the frame, perform address recognition and error detection. Govern access to the LAN transmission media. Logical link control. In most data link control protocols, the data link protocol entity is responsible not only for detecting errors using the CRC, but for recovering from those errors by retransmitting damaged frames. In the LAN protocol architecture, These two functions are split between the MAC and LLC layers. The MAC layer is responsible for detecting errors and discarding any frames that contain errors. The LLC layer optionally keeps track of which frames have been successfully received and retransmits unsuccessful frames. General IEEE 802 MPDU format. The exact format of the MPDU differs somewhat for the various MAC protocols in use. In general, all of the MPDUs have a format similar to that in the figure. The field of this frame are as follows. MAC control. This field contains any protocol control information needed for the functioning of the MAC protocol. For example, a priority level could be indicated here. Destination MAC address. The destination physical address on the LAN for this MPDU. Source MAC address. The source physical address on the LAN for this MPDU. MAC service data unit. The data from the next higher layer. CRC. The cyclic redundancy check field, also known as the frame check sequence, FCS, field. This is an error detecting code, such as that which is used in other data link control protocols. The CRC is calculated based on the bits in the entire MPDU. The sender calculates the CRC and adds it to the frame. The receiver performs the same calculation on the incoming MPDU and compares that calculation to the CRC field in that incoming MPDU. If the two values don't match, then one or more bits have been altered in transit. The fields preceding the MSDU field are referred to as the MAC header, and the field following the MSDU field is referred to as the MAC trailer. The header and trailer contain control information that accompany the data field and that are used by the MAC protocol. IEEE 802.11 Extended Service Set. The figure illustrates the model developed by the 802.11 working group. The smallest building block of a wireless LAN is a basic service set, BSS, which consists of wireless stations executing the same MAC protocol and competing for access to the same shared wireless medium. A BSS may be isolated, or it may connect to a backbone distribution system, DS, through an access point, AP. The AP functions as a bridge and a relay point. In a BSS, client stations do not communicate directly with one another. Rather, if one station in the BSS wants to communicate with another station in the same BSS, the MAC frame is first sent from the originating station to the AP, and then from the AP to the destination station. Similarly, a MAC frame from station in a BSS to a remote station is sent from the local station to the AP, and then relayed by the AP over the DS on its way to the destination station. The BSS generally corresponds to what is referred to as a cell in the literature. The DS can be a switch, wired network, or a wireless network. When all the stations in the BSS are mobile stations that communicate directly with one another, not using the AP, the BSS is called an independent BSS, IBSS. An IBSS is typically an ad hoc network. In an IBSS, the stations all communicate directly, and no AP is involved. A simple configuration is shown in the figure, in which each station belongs to a single BSS. That is, each station is within wireless range only of other stations within the same BSS. It is also possible for two BSSs to overlap geographically, so that a single station could participate in more than one BSS. Furthermore, the association between a station and a BSS is dynamic. Stations may turn off, come within range, and go out of range. An extended service set, ESS, consists of two or more basic service sets that are interconnected by a distribution system. The extended service set appears as a single logical LAN to the logical link control level. IEEE 802.11 services. IEEE 802.11 defines 9 services that need to be provided by the wireless LAN to achieve functionality equivalent to that of which is inherent to wired LANs. The table lists the services and indicates 2 ways of categorizing them. 1. The service provider can be either the station or the DS. Station services are implemented in every 802.11 station, including AP stations. Distribution services are provided between BSSs. These services may be implemented in an AP or in another special purpose device attached to the distribution system. 2. 3 of the services are used to control IEEE 802.11 LAN access and confidentiality. 6 of the services are used to support delivery of MSDUs between stations. If the MSDU is too large to be transmitted in a single MPDU, it may be fragmented and transmitted in a series of MPDUs. Following the IEEE 802.11 document, we next discuss the services in an order designed to clarify the operation of an IEEE 802.11 ESS network. MSDU delivery, which is the basic service, already has been mentioned. Services related to security are introduced in section 7.4. Distribution of messages within a DS. The 2 services involved with the distribution of messages within a DS are distribution and integration. Distribution is the primary service used by stations to exchange MPDUs when the MPDUs must traverse the DS to get from a station in one BSS to a station in another BSS. For example, suppose a frame is to be sent from station 2, STA2, to station 7, STA7, as in figure 7.5. The frame is sent from STA2 to AP1, which is the AP for this BSS. The AP gives the frame to the DS, which has the job of directing the frame to the AP associated with STA7. AP2 receives the frame and forwards it to STA2. How the message is transported through the DS is beyond the scope of the IEEE 802.11 standard. If the 2 stations that are communicating are within the same BSS, then the distribution service logically goes through the single AP of that BSS. The integration service enables transfer of data between a station on an IEEE 802.11 LAN and a station on an integrated IEEE 802.X LAN. The term integrated refers to a wired LAN that is physically connected to the DS and whose stations may be logically connected to an IEEE 802.11 LAN via the integration services. The integration service takes care of any address translation and media conversion logic required for the exchange of data. Association-related services. The primary purpose of the MAC layer is to transfer MSDUs between MAC entities. This purpose is fulfilled by the distribution service. For that service to function, it requires information about stations within the ESS that is provided by the association-related services. Before the distribution service can deliver data to or accept data from a station, that station must be associated. Before looking at the concept of association, we need to describe the concept of mobility. The standard defines 3 transition types based on mobility. No transition. A station of this type is either stationary or moves only within the direct communication range of the communicating stations of a single BSS. BSS transition. This is defined as a station movement from one BSS to another BSS within the same ESS. In this case, delivery of data to the station requires that the addressing capability be able to recognize the new location of the station. ESS transition. This is defined as a station movement from a BSS in one ESS to a BSS within another ESS. This case is supported only in the sense that the station can move. Maintenance of upper layer connections supported by 802.11 cannot be guaranteed. In fact, disruption of service is likely to occur. Association-related services. To deliver a message within a DS, the distribution service needs to know where the destination station is located. Specifically, the DS needs to know the identity of the AP to which the message should be delivered in order for that message to reach the destination station. To meet this requirement, a station must maintain an association with the AP within its current BSS. 3 services relate to this requirement. Association. Establish an initial association between a station and an AP. Before a station can transmit or receive frames on a wireless LAN, its identity and address must be known. For this purpose, a station must establish an association with an AP within a particular BSS. The AP can then communicate this information to other APs within the ESS to facilitate routing and delivery of addressed frames. Reassociation enables an established association to be transferred from one AP to another, allowing a mobile station to move from one BSS to another. Disassociation, a notification from either a station or an AP that an existing association is terminated. A station should give this notification before leaving an ESS or shutting down. However, the MAC management facility protects itself against stations that disappear without notification. IEEE 802.11i Wireless LAN Security. There are 2 characteristics of a wired LAN that are not inherent in a wireless LAN. 1. In order to transmit over a wired LAN, a station must be physically connected to the LAN. On the other hand, with a wireless LAN, any station within radio range of the other devices on the LAN can transmit. In a sense, there is a form of authentication with a wired LAN in that it requires some positive and presumably observable action to connect a station to a wired LAN. 2. Similarly, in order to receive a transmission from a station that is part of a wired LAN, the receiving station must also be attached to the wired LAN. On the other hand, with a wireless LAN, any station within radio range can receive. Thus, a wired LAN provides a degree of privacy, limiting reception of data to stations connected to the LAN. These differences between wired and wireless LANs suggest the increased need for robust security services and mechanisms for wireless LANs. The original 802.11 specification included a set of security features for privacy and authentication that were quite weak. For privacy, 802.11 defined the wired equivalent privacy WEP algorithm. The privacy portion of the 802.11 standard contained major weaknesses. Subsequent to the development of WEP, the IEEE 802.11i task group has developed a set of capabilities to address the WLAN security issues. In order to accelerate the introduction of strong security into WLANs, the Wi-Fi Alliance, who is a Wi-Fi standard, created WPA. It's a set of security mechanisms that eliminates most 802.11 security issues and was based on the current state of 802.11i standard. The final form of the standard is referred to as Robust Security Network, RSN. The Wi-Fi Alliance certifies vendors in compliance with the full 802.11i specification under the WPA2 program. The RSN specification is quite complex and occupies 145 pages of the 2012 IEEE 802.11 standard. In this section, we provide just an overview. Elements of IEEE 802.11i. The 802.11i RSN security specification defines the following services. Authentication. A protocol is used to define an exchange between a user and AS that provides mutual authentication and generates temporary keys to be used between the client and the AP over the wireless link. Access control. This function enforces the use of the authentication function, routes the message properly, and facilitates key exchange. It can work within a variety of authentication protocols. Privacy with message integrity. MAC level data, for example, an LLC PDU, are encrypted along with a message integrity code that ensures that the data has not been altered. The figure indicates the security protocols used to support the service, and it lists the cryptographic algorithms used for these services. IEEE 802.11i Phases of Operation. The operation of an IEEE 802.11i RSN can be broken down into 5 distinct phases of operation. The exact nature of the phases will depend on the configuration and the endpoints of communication. Possibilities include 1. 2 wireless stations in the same BSS communicating with the access point, AP, for that BSS. 2. 2 wireless stations in the same ad hoc IBSS communicating directly with each other. 3. 2 wireless stations in different BSSs communicating via their respective APs across a distribution system. 4. A wireless station communicating with an end station on a wired network via its AP and the distribution system. IEEE 802.11i security is concerned only with secure communication between the STA and its AP. In case 1 in the preceding list, secure communication is assured if each STA establishes secure communications with the AP. Case 2 is similar, with the AP functionality residing in the STA. For case 3, security is not provided across the distribution system at the level of IEEE 802.11, but only within each BSS. End-to-end security, if required, must be provided at a higher layer. Similarly, in case 4, security is only provided between the STA and its AP. With these considerations in mind, the figure depicts the 5 phases of operation for an RSN and maps them to the network components involved. One new component is the Authentication Server, AS. The rectangles indicate the exchange of sequences of MPDUs. The 5 phases are defined as follows. Discovery. An AP uses messages called beacons and probe responses to advertise its IEEE 802.11i security policy. The STA uses these to identify an AP for a WLAN with which it wishes to communicate. The STA associated with the AP, which it uses to select the cipher suite and authentication mechanism when the beacons and probe responses present a choice. Authentication. During this phase, the STA and AS prove their identities to each other. The AP blocks non-authentication traffic between the STA and AS until the authentication transaction is successful. The AP does not participate in the authentication transaction other than forwarding traffic between the STA and AS. Key generation and distribution. The AP and the STA perform several operations that cause cryptographic keys to be generated and placed on the AP and the STA. Frames are exchanged between the AP and STA only. Protected data transfer. Frames are exchanged between the STA and the end station through the AP. As denoted by the shading and the encryption module icon, secure data transfer occurs between the STA and the AP only. Security is not provided end-to-end. Connection termination. The AP and STA exchange frames. During this phase, the secure connection is torn down and the connection is restored to the original state. We now look into more detail at the RSN phases of operation, beginning with the discovery phase, which is illustrated in the upper portion of the figure. The purpose of this phase is for an STA and an AP to recognize each other, agree on a set of security capabilities, and establish an association for future communication using those security capabilities. Security capabilities. During this phase, the STA and AP decide on the specific technique in the following areas: confidentiality and MPDU integrity protocols for protecting unicast traffic, traffic only between this STA and AP. Authentication method, cryptography key management approach, confidentiality and integrity protocols for the protected multicast broadcast traffic are dictated by the AP, since all STAs in a multicast group must use the same protocols and ciphers. The specification of a protocol, along with the chosen key length, if variable, is known as a cipher suite. The options for the confidentiality and integrity cipher suite are WEP, with either a 40-bit or 104-bit key, which allows backward compatibility with older implementations, or TKIP, CCMP, vendor-specific methods. The other negotiable suite is the Authentication and Key Management, AKM suite, which defines 1, the means by which the AP and STA perform mutual authentication, and 2, the means for deriving a root key from which other keys may be generated. The possible AKM suites are IEEE 802.1x, pre-shared key, no explicit authentication takes place, and mutual authentication is implied if the STA and AP share a unique secret key. Vendor-specific methods. The discovery phase consists of these 3 exchanges: network and security capability discovery. During this exchange, STAs discover the existence of a network with which to communicate. The AP either periodically broadcasts its security capabilities, not shown in the figure, indicated by RSN IE, Robust Security Network Information Element, in a specific channel through the beacon frame, or responds to a station's probe request through a probe response frame. A wireless station may discover available access points and correspondingly security capabilities by either passively monitoring the beacon frame or actively probing every channel. Open Systems Authentication. The purpose of this frame sequence, which provides no security, is simply to maintain backward compatibility with the IEEE 802.11 state machine as implemented in existing IEEE 802.11 hardware. In essence, the two devices, STA and AP, simply exchange identifiers. Association. The purpose of this stage is to agree on a set of security capabilities to be used. The STA then sends an association request frame to the AP. In this frame, the STA specifies one set of matching capabilities, one authentication and key management suite, one pairwise cipher suite, and one group key cipher suite from among those advertised by the AP. If there is no match in capabilities between the AP and the STA, the AP refuses the association request. The STA blocks it too in case it has associated with a rogue AP or someone is inserting frames illicitly on its channel. As shown in the figure, the IEEE 802.1x controlled ports are blocked, and no user traffic goes beyond the AP. The concept of blocked ports is explained subsequently. As was mentioned, the authentication phase enables mutual authentication between an STA and an authentication server, AS, located in the DS. Authentication is designed to allow only authorized stations to use the network and to provide the STA with assurance that it is communicating with a legitimate network. IEEE 802.1x Access Control Approach. IEEE 802.11i makes use of another standard that was designed to provide access control functions for LANs. The standard is IEEE 802.1x, Port-Based Network Access Control. The authentication protocol that is used, the Extensible Authentication Protocol, EAP, is defined in the IEEE 802.1x standard. IEEE 802.1x uses the terms supplicant, authenticator, and authentication server, AS. In the context of a WLAN 802.11, the first two terms correspond to the wireless station and the AP. The AS is typically a separate device on the wired side of the network, i.e. accessible over the DS, but could also reside directly on the authenticator. Before a supplicant is authenticated by the AS using an authentication protocol, the authenticator only passes control or authentication messages between the supplicant and the AS. The 802.1x control channel is unblocked, but the 802.11 data channel is blocked. Once a supplicant is authenticated and keys are provided, the authenticator can forward data from the supplicant, subject to predefined access control limitations for the supplicant, to the network. Under these circumstances, the data channel is unblocked. As indicated in the figure, 802.1x uses the concepts of controlled and uncontrolled ports. Ports are logical entities defined within the authenticator and refer to physical network connections. For a WLAN, the authenticator, the IP, have two physical ports, one connecting to the DS and one for wireless communications within its BSS. Each logical port is mapped to one of these two physical ports. An uncontrolled port allows the exchange of PDUs between the supplicant and the other AS, regardless of the authentication state of the supplicant. A controlled port allows the exchange of PDUs between a supplicant and another system on the LAN only if the current state of the supplicant authorizes such an exchange. IEEE 802.1x is covered in more detail in Chapter 5. The 802.1x framework with an upper layer authentication protocol fits nicely with a BSS architecture that includes a number of wireless stations and an AP. However, for an IBSS, there is no AP. For an IBSS, 802.11i provides a more complex solution that, in essence, involves pairwise authentication between stations on the IBSS. The lower part of the figure shows the MPDU exchange dictated by IEEE 802.11 for the authentication phase. We can think of the authentication phase as consisting of the following three phases. Connect to AS. The STA sends a request to its AP, the one with which it has an association, for connection to the AS. The AP acknowledges this request and sends an access request to the AS. EAP exchange. This exchange authenticates the STA and AS to each other. A number of alternate exchanges are possible, as explained subsequently. Secure key delivery. Once authentication is established, the AS generates a master session key, MSK, also known as the Authentication, Authorization, and Accounting AAA key, and sends it to the STA. As explained subsequently, all the cryptographic keys needed by the STA for secure communication with its AP are generated from this MSK. IEEE 802.11i does not prescribe a method for secure delivery of the MSK, but relies on EAP for this. Whatever method is used, it involves the transmission of an MPDU containing an encrypted MSK from the AS via the AP to the AS. As mentioned, there are a number of possible EAP exchanges that can be used during the authentication phase. Typically, the message flow between STA and AP employs the EAP over LAN, EAPOL protocol, and message flow between the AP and AS uses the remote authentication dial-in user service, Radius protocol. Although other options are available for both STA to AP and AP to AS exchanges. Here's a following summary of the authentication exchange using EAPOL and Radius. 1. The EAP exchange between the AP issuing an EAP request identity frame goes to the STA. 2. The STA replies with an EAP response identity frame, which the AP receives over the uncontrolled port. The packet is then encapsulated in Radius over EAP and passed on to the Radius server as a Radius access request packet. The AAA server replies with a Radius access challenge packet, which is passed on to the STA as an EAP request. This request is of the appropriate authentication type and contains relevant challenge information. 4. The STA formulates an EAP response message and sends it to the AS. The response is translated by the AP into a Radius access request with the response to the challenge as a data field. Steps 3 and 4 may be repeated multiple times, depending on the EAP method in use. For TLS tunneling methods, it is common for authentication to require 10 to 20 round trips. 5. The AAA server grants access with a radius access accept packet. The AP issues an EAP success frame. Some protocols require confirmation of the EAP success inside the TLS tunnel for authenticity validation. The controlled port is authorized, and the user may begin to access the network. Note from Figure 7.8 that the AP controlled port is still blocked to general user traffic. Although the authentication is successful, the ports remain blocked until the temporal key is installed in the STA and AP, which occurs during the four-way handshake. IEEE 802.11i key hierarchies. During the key management phase, a variety of cryptographic keys are generated and distributed to STAs. There are two types of keys: pairwise keys used for communication between an STA and AP, and group keys used for multicast communication. The figure shows the two key hierarchies. Please pause and refer to this IEEE 802.11i keys for data confidentiality and integrity. Pairwise keys. Pairwise keys are used for communication between a pair of devices, typically between an STA and an AP. These keys form a hierarchy beginning with a master key from which other keys are derived dynamically and used for a limited period of time. At the top level of the hierarchy are two possibilities. A pre-shared key, PSK, is a secret key shared by the AP and an STA and installed in some fashion outside the scope of IEEE 802.11i. The other alternative is the master session key, MSK, also known as the AAAK, which is generated using the IEEE 802.1x protocol during the authentication phase, as described previously. The actual method of key generation depends on the details of the authentication protocol used. In either case, PSK or MSK, there is a unique key shared by the AP with each STA with which it communicates. All the other keys derived from this master key are also unique between an AP and an STA. Thus, each STA at any time has one set of keys, as depicted in the hierarchy of the figure, while the AP has one set of such keys for each of its STAs. The pairwise master key, PMK, is derived from the master key. If a PSK is used, then the PSK is used as the PMK. If an MSK is used, then the PMK is derived from the MSK by truncation if necessary. By the end of the authentication phase, marked by the 802.1x EAP success message, both the AP and the STA have a copy of their shared PMK. The PMK is used to generate the pairwise transient key, PTK, which in fact consists of three keys to be used for communication between an STA and AP after they have been mutually authenticated. To derive the PTK, the HMAC-SHA-1 function is applied to the PMK. The MAC addresses of the STA and AP and nonces generated when needed are also applied. Using the STA and AP addresses in the generation of the PTK provides protection against session hijacking and impersonations. Using nonces provides additional random keying material. PTK parts. The three parts of the PTK are as follows: EAP over LAN, EAPOL, key confirmation key, EAPOL-KCK, supports the integrity and data origin authenticity of STA to AP control frames during operational setup of an RSN. It also performs an access control function, proof of possession of the PMK. An entity that possesses the PMK is authorized to use the link. EAPOL key encryption key. EAPOL KEK. It protects the confidentiality of keys and other data during some RSN association procedures. Temporal key, TK, provides the actual protection for user traffic. Group keys. Group keys are used for multicast communication in which one STA sends M PDUs to multiple STAs. At the top level, the group key hierarchy is the group master key, GMK. The GMK is a key generating key used with other inputs to derive the group temporal key, GTK. Unlike the PTK, which is generated using material from both AP and STA, the GTK is generated by the AP and transmitted to its associated STAs. Exactly how this GTK is generated is undefined. IEEE 802.11i, however, requires that its value is computationally indistinguishable from random. The GTK is distributed securely using the pairwise keys that are already established. The GTK is changed every time a device leaves the network. The upper part of the figure shows the MPDU exchange for distributing pairwise keys. This exchange is known as the four-way handshake. The STA and AP use this handshake to confirm the existence of the PMK, verify the selection of the cipher suite, and derive a fresh PDK for the following data session. IEEE 802.11i defines two schemes for protecting data transmitted in 802.11 M PDUs. The Temporal Key Integrity Protocol, TKIP, and the Counter Mode CBC-MAC Protocol, CCMP. TKIP is designed to require only software changes to devices that are implemented with very old wireless LAN security approach called Wired Equivalent Privacy, WEP. TKIP provides two services. Message integrity. TKIP adds a message integrity code, MIC, to the 802.11 MAC frame after the data field. The MIC is generated by an algorithm called Michael that computes a 64-bit value using as input the source and destination MAC address values and the data field plus key material. Data confidentiality. Data confidentiality is provided by encrypting the MPDU plus MIC value using RC4. Note that RC4 is very weak and not recommended. The 256 key TK is employed as follows. Two 64-bit keys are used with the Michael Message Digest algorithm to produce a message integrity code. One key is used to protect STA to AP messages, and the other key is used to protect AP to STA messages. The remaining 128 bits are truncated to generate RC4 key used to encrypt the transmitted data. For additional protection, a monotonically increases the TKIP sequence counter, TSC, which is assigned to each frame. The TSC serves two purposes. First, the TSC is included with each MPDU and is protected by the MIC to protect against replay attacks. Second, the TSC is combined with the session TK to produce a dynamic encryption key that changes with each transmitted MPDU, thus making cryptanalysis more difficult. CCMP is intended for newer IEEE 802.11 devices that are equipped with the hardware to support this scheme. As with TKIP, CCMP provides two services. Message integrity. CCMP uses the cipher block chaining message authentication code, CBC-MAC, described in Chapter 3. Data confidentiality. CCMP uses the CTR block cipher mode of operation with AES for encryption. CTR is described in Chapter 2. The same 128-bit AES key is used for both integrity and confidentiality. The scheme uses a 48-bit packet number to construct a nonce to prevent replay attacks. Pseudo-random function, PRF. At a number of places in the IEEE 802.11i scheme, a pseudo-random function, PRF, is used. For example, it is used to generate nonces, to expand pairwise keys, and to generate the GTK. Best security practices dictates that different pseudo-random number streams be used for these different purposes. However, for implementation efficiency, we would like to rely on a single pseudo-random number generator function. The PRF is built on the use of HMAC SHA-1 to generate a pseudo-random bit stream. Recall that HMAC SHA-1 takes a message, block of data, and a key of length at least 160 bits and produces a 160-bit hash value. SHA-1 has the property that the change of a single bit of the input produces a new hash value with no apparent connection to the preceding hash value. This property is the basis for pseudo-random number generation. IEEE 802.11i pseudo-random function. In this figure, it illustrates the function. Please take time to review. And finally, the summary. The topics were, at a high level, wireless network security, mobile device security, IEEE 802.11 wireless LAN overview, IEEE 802.11i wireless LAN security. And we have some detailed subtopics. Thanks for listening. Bye from Teacher Todd.